When people say they're moving to the Hartford area, they usually don't mean the city itself. Instead, what they actually mean are their surrounding suburbs. Because two people can say the exact same thing. We're moving to Hartford, Connecticut, and have two wildly different experiences, different lifestyles, different housing costs, different commute patterns, and two very different levels of satisfaction. One person could live 5 minutes from work, have a walkable neighborhood, be minutes from a town center. Others, 30 minutes from work, winding roads, quiet, and space to spread out. Both are technically Hartford, but they're two very different experiences. On today's video, I'm going to take you on a map-based tour of the Hartford metro area. We're looking at towns, geography, commute patterns, landmarks, how far the airport is from a given town, and everything in between. Because when you're moving to a new area, it's just as important to know how the area functions from a geography perspective as it is to pick the perfect town, the perfect house with the perfect bathrooms and kitchen. And you're going to want to stick around to the end because the biggest mistake I often see buyers make has nothing to do with the number of bedrooms or bathrooms they choose. Instead, it has everything to do with geography. If you're new here, my name's David Constant, and I'm a real estate agent right here in Hartford County. And I help folks just like you make the decision to make Hartford their home every single day. Whether you're looking in Glastonbury, Avon, Farmington, Simsbury, or anywhere in between, I want to help you make a smooth move to the Hartford, Connecticut area. If you're going to move in 9 days or 90 days, be sure to give me a call, send me a text, or shoot me an email, and I would love to help you and your family call Hartford County home. Most of the people I work with start exactly where you are right now. They've heard the town names, they've looked up the best towns to live in lists, they've searched safest neighborhoods, best schools. But beyond that, they're not exactly sure how the area functions. This video is designed to fix that. Let me be clear, we're not gonna pick any towns today. We're definitely not gonna pick any houses. We're building map awareness because once you understand how the geography works, everything else, pricing, housing, commutes, schools, starts to come together and become that much more clear. So let's start by zooming out on the map, because when people hear Hartford, they oftentimes think of it just like Boston, New York City, Miami, any other major city, and that's that it's self-contained. And that's not really the case when we're talking about Hartford, especially on my channel at least. When I'm talking about Hartford, I am talking about the city, but I'm really talking about all the suburbs that surround Hartford, whether it's West Hartford, Bloomfield, South Windsor, Manchester, Glastonbury, Newington, and more. So this entire area right here, essentially from, let's call it, Plainville over to Andover, from west to east, and then all the way up to the Massachusetts line, up here in Enfield, Suffield, all the way down to, let's call it Cromwell, this line right here, Marlborough. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about Hartford itself. Now, not all of these suburbs are created equally, that's for sure. Some are more rural, some are more urban suburban, some are dense, some are sparse, some are affordable, some are more expensive, some have highly rated schools, others not so much. So there's a lot of variety in Hartford. But before we dive in, I did want to clarify that today we're not just talking about Hartford, the city, but we're talking about the Hartford metro area, which is really Hartford and the surrounding suburbs. One of the things about Hartford that often gets overlooked is that Hartford has its share of highly rated colleges and universities. So over here in West Hartford, we have University of St. Joseph. A little bit farther north, you have the University of Hartford, which straddles the West Hartford and Bloomfield line. In downtown Hartford, you actually have Trinity College, and then you have UConn School of Law. So in a pretty small area, you have 4 major colleges and universities. Why do I bring this up? Well, anytime you have colleges in an area, you're going to have an influx of students, of graduate students, of faculty. That's going to impact the housing situation. So not only are rentals going to be impacted, right? They might be in higher demand during the school year calendar. There might be more of them closer to the colleges, right? We know for sure that close to University of Joseph and University of Hartford, there are actually a lot more rental opportunities because of the presence of these schools. But also you have an economic impact. impact because of the jobs that these colleges create. You have folks that want to study and innovate and be part of the new frontier that are going to move to the area because they want to be a part of colleges and universities. So oftentimes it's something that we don't really talk about when we talk about Hartford, but it is something I definitely wanted to touch on today. Another thing I wanted to really focus on this afternoon is one of the major geographic components of the area, and that's the Connecticut River. So the Connecticut River runs north to south, starts way up in northern New England, and runs all the way down, splits the state of Connecticut essentially in half, runs right through Hartford, tracing it with my cursor, right down and empties out on the Long Island Sound. And why is it so important that we talk about the Connecticut River today? Well, first and foremost, it divides our region essentially in half. And there are only a couple of different ways to actually get across the river. So right over here, next door to where I live, in Glastonbury, between Glastonbury and Wethersfield, you have Route 3, which is a bridge that connects Route 2 with 91. So this is the farthest south way to get across the Connecticut River in Hartford County. As you move a little bit farther north, there are three pretty close in proximity ways to cross the river. You have Route 5, which is between East Hartford and Wethersfield. And then you have these two highways, which are essentially right downtown. So you have Route 2 and you have 84. Now, as you can see, look at this major mix master right in East Hartford. So because of all of these highways coming together at the exact same spot, there is a ton of traffic during morning peak rush hour and then afternoon rush hour. So if you're somebody that needs to cross through Hartford and the only way for you to get through Hartford is 84 or Route 2, you're going to be facing a ton of traffic during commuting hours. As you move a little bit farther north, another really popular way to cross through and over the Connecticut River is 291. Similar to Route 3 in the south, 291 tends to be a lot more quiet. There is certainly traffic and there can be traffic jams, particularly during rush hour traffic, but it's a lot more quiet than, let's say, 84 or Route 5 or Route 2. It's important that we understand how the Connecticut River functions and how it impacts the region, because one of the things we're going to spend a lot of time talking about today is whether or not you want to live west of the river in towns like Farmington, Bloomfield, West Hartford, Newington, or Wethersfield, or whether or not your life is really focused east of the river in South Windsor, Vernon, Manchester, East Hartford, Glastonbury, Marlborough, or Hebron. And the Connecticut River is really going to dictate much of that decision. So for most residents, Hartford is not necessarily a place that they call home. Instead, it's a place that they go to. They might go there for access to Hartford healthcare. They might go there for access to UConn Law or another university or college class. They might go there because they work for Cigna or the Hartford or Travelers or another major corporation in the area. It's not necessarily where their daily life is centered, but it is a place where they go into on occasion, whether that's daily for work, weekly for appointments, or even monthly or a couple times a year for errands and other random appointments. It's unlike other cities in that it's not a hub, although as you'll see in a couple of my other videos, there are hopes that Hartford is turning into that magnetic force, but it's not quite there yet. Instead, much of your daily life, if you live in the Hartford County region, is going to be centered in the town that you live in. For example, if you live in West Hartford, almost everything you do will be either right in West Hartford or really close by. Now, obviously, if you live in West Hartford and you work in, Bloomfield, you're going to have to commute outside your town for work, but in terms of your schools, your kids' activities, access to exercising, shopping, groceries, pharmacy, doctors, all of that kind of stuff can happen right in West Hartford. Similarly, if you live in Wethersfield, right, down a little bit farther south of Hartford, you have everything from, big box stores, pharmacies, doctors, grocery stores, schools, kids' activities right in Wethersfield. Yes, you might go into Hartford on occasion for dinner or an appointment or something else, but generally speaking, your entire life is going to be focused in Wethersfield and the surrounding suburbs. And this matters because a lot of people, particularly those who are relocating, get tripped up and they think, I have to live like either in Hartford or just outside of Hartford because almost everything I do will be centered around the city. And that's just not true. Instead, once you understand how the river functions, how to cross over the river, and the general flow of traffic, the rest of the map is going to start to narrow itself down. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next. So one of the biggest draws to the Hartford metro area is its location, both within the state and also regionally. I'm going to zoom out here and you will see that Hartford is almost perfectly centered in the state of Connecticut. So we have Connecticut here, we have Rhode Island to the east, New York to the west, Long Island Sound to the south, and Massachusetts to the north. And Hartford is almost dead center in Connecticut. Why is this important? Well, if you're somebody that has to travel a little bit for work, let's say you have to go to Northwest Connecticut on occasion, or Southeast Connecticut, or down to Fairfield County. Being in Hartford allows you to get to any of those locations with relative ease. Now, if you lived in New London County and you occasionally had to go out to Torrington, that's going to be a major pain, whereas being centrally located is going to pay off massively. When I zoom out and look at Hartford regionally, one of the major things that a lot of us locals actually take for granted is how ease of access it is to get to major cities like Boston. You can look right on the map here. To get to Boston, you've only got to jump on 84 to the Mass Pike on Route 90, and you're in Boston in less than 2 hours, which is really unbelievable when you think about it, because there are folks that live in other parts of the country that have to drive 5, 6, 7 hours, if not get on a plane to have access to a world-class city like Boston, and we can hop in the car and be there in less than 2 hours. Similarly, I'm going to zoom out and you're going to look over here. We could be in New York City, which is a world-class city, a major tourist attraction for millions of people every single year. We can be there in about 2 to 2.5 hours. If you want to go by car, you can jump on the highway, go down 91, all the way down 95, and be in New York City in about 2.5 hours, depending on the time of day. Or one of the really nice perks is if you just go down 91, anywhere from New Haven south, you can jump on the Metro North Railway, which is a super convenient way to get into New York City. You can jump on in New Haven, Bridgeport, Fairfield, Milford, Stamford. Any of those towns has very accessible train stations, and you actually get off right in Grand Central Station. So if you want to commute to New York City for a weekend or a night out at dinner or a Broadway show, you can do so with relative ease. Similarly, you can do the same thing with Boston. Now, if you're somebody that really enjoys the outdoors, skiing, snowboarding, hiking, access to lakes, we're only about 2 hours from southern New Hampshire, which has amazing skiing, Bretton Woods, Moon Mountain, other places in the White Mountains. We also have about 2.5 to 3 hours to some of the most popular ski resorts in Vermont. We're only about 3.5 hours from Portland, Maine, which has an amazing seaside food scene, lots of great live music. It's a really cute city to spend a weekend at. I try to go up at least once every single summer. If you love national parks, you go a little bit farther north. Right out here is Bar Harbor in Acadia National Park. This is where you can see the earliest sunrise in the continental United States. It's a beautiful sunrise coming up over Bar Harbor. It's a national park. A lot of people don't even realize that we've got a wonderful national park with hundreds of miles of hiking trails, only, a 5 or 6 hour drive away. So I don't care if you're looking for major cities, if you're looking for art, if you're looking for sports games. The fact that you live in Hartford gives you access to a lot of this, both regionally and within our state, in a way that, a lot of other folks, simply just don't have. Connected to that is an understanding of how the highways in the area function. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and there are 3 highways that I want to highlight for us today. One is I-84, which runs west and east. So I'm going to trace it over here. It starts way out here in New York State and comes in through Danbury, runs through Southington, Plainville, up through New Britain, West Hartford, right through downtown Hartford, then makes its way east through East Hartford, Manchester, Vernon, Tolland, all the way out to Massachusetts, past UConn, my alma mater. Now, this highway is really important because if you're somebody that has to commute east and west, chances are you're going to spend some time on I-84. And it's so important because it goes directly through Hartford, as we talked about earlier. So if you live in, let's say, Farmington, and you jump on 84 and you have to work in Manchester, well, the only real way to get there, at least most directly, is going 84 through West Hartford, over the bridge through Hartford, through East Hartford in Manchester. Now, while traffic might not be terrible out in Farmington or on the east side in East Hartford in Manchester, getting through this bottleneck at rush hour is going to be a major pain. So it's just something to consider when you think about relocating to the area where your home is, where your workplace is. The other highway that's really important in the area is I-91. Now, this one runs north to south and essentially parallels the Connecticut River, as you can see here. So it starts way up in Massachusetts, runs down through Springfield, Windsor Locks, Windsor, Bloomfield, Hartford, crosses through Hartford, then goes through Wethersfield, Rocky Hill, down through Berlin, Meriden, and then ultimately goes all the way to New Haven, where it connects with 95. This highway is really important to understand because if you're somebody who has to commute north towards Windsor or Windsor Locks, let's say you travel frequently to the airport because you want to get in and out of the Hartford metro area, being close to 91 is going to be really beneficial to you. Similarly, if you're somebody, let's say you relocated to the area because you got a job at Yale or you're a graduate student at Yale, well, you're going to have to travel down to New Haven often. So being close to 91 is going to make that commute that much easier. So again, I-84 is going to run east and west. That's a major highway in the area. And then I-91 runs north and south, and that's another major highway in the area. The last highway I want to talk about right now is much quieter than those two, but has a really big impact on the area, and that's Route 2. So Route 2 runs from Hartford southeast through East Hartford, Glastonbury, Marlborough, all the way down to essentially where it connects with 395 near Mohegan Sun and Foxwoods casinos down in southeast Connecticut. Why is this highway so important? Well, if you live in any of these suburbs of Hartford that are southeast of the city, chances are the closer you are to Route 2, the more convenient your commute is going to be and the easier access you will have to amenities. So I actually live in Glastonbury and I'm pretty close to Route 2. I'm only about 4 minutes off of Route 2. So this makes commuting for me, whether I want to jet down to New Haven or whether I want to hop over to Wethersfield or if I have a showing in Newington, it makes commuting very easy for me. Now, if I lived farther in South Glastonbury, closer to the Connecticut River off of Route 17, it would take me, let's say about 15 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes just to get back to Route 2 to then go up north, cross over Route 3, and then down 91. So where in relation to Route 2 you live, especially east of the river, is going to have a really big impact on your ease of daily life. These three highways are three of the more important highways to understand if you're moving to the area. Again, most people are going to travel on I-84 almost every single day. Many folks, not as many, but many folks travel on I-91. And then if you live east of the river, chances are you're going to use Route 2 almost every single day for your commuting. Now that we've oriented ourselves to the Connecticut River, the crossings of the river, and the major highways in the area, I want to talk about one of the main features of the area, and that's Bradley International Airport. Bradley International Airport is a major airport in the area, and having access to it so close is something a lot of us take for granted, but it's a major perk of living in Hartford County. So Bradley International Airport continues to improve itself every year. They're actually undergoing a major renovation. They're adding an entire terminal. They're expanding flight options, both times of day and destinations. And it's turning into a major project for the area. It's adding jobs, it is adding convenience, and it's attracting folks who have to travel for work to the area every single day. And when we zoom out, for years, if you had to do any kind of major travel, especially international travel, you had really one of two options. You could drive 2 hours to Logan in Boston, or you could drive 2.5 hours down to Newark, LaGuardia, JFK, or any of the other New York-based airports. Those are your two options. But since Bradley has expanded their travel options, added a ton of international flights, you could live in Glastonbury and be at Bradley International Airport in about 25 or 30 minutes. And the parking situation there is incredibly easy. The terminals are small enough to navigate really, really quickly. There's not much of a line. If you live in West Hartford, similar, you can be there in about 25 to 30 minutes. Never mind if you live in Simsbury, Bloomfield, Granby, East Windsor, any of these towns, you're at the airport in 15 minutes. Now, if you're somebody that likes to travel, if you're somebody that has to travel for work, if you're somebody who has family in other parts of the country who you want to visit, being so close to an airport with lots of flight options is something you certainly don't take for granted, and it's something that's going to make the quality of life for you when you move to the area that much better. So right now I want to talk a little bit about the towns, because we've talked about the airport, we've talked about the river, we've talked about the crossings, but let's start to dig in where the different towns are and where the different suburbs are that we often hear about. So let's start west of the river. West of the river, the most popular towns are usually West Hartford because of the town center, the schools, the lifestyle. We also have towns like Avon, Simsbury, and down here, let me zoom in, you can see it is Farmington, right along 84. These towns tend to be the most popular because they have, some of the top rated schools in not just the region, but also the state as a whole. They also have ease of access. As you can see, Avon is right along 44, so commuting into and around Hartford is quite easy. Farmington is right along 84. West Hartford is divided in half by Route 84 as you go a little bit farther north. Simsbury is a little bit more off the beaten path. So folks that prefer privacy, they don't necessarily need to commute into Hartford or beyond often. They tend to land and find happiness in Simsbury. But those are a few of the towns that are most popular. Towns like Newington and Wethersfield are also both west of the city, but they're a little bit farther south. They're a bit more practical and affordable. Now, Newington is right along Berlin Turnpike, which is Route 5, and Wethersfield is right along 91. So if you're somebody that has to commute particularly down to New Haven County, or you need access to 691 in Meriden, let's say you even have to go somewhere like, down farther into Fairfield County, whether it's Bridgeport, Stratford, or those sorts of towns, living along 91 or the Berlin Turnpike or Route 5 is going to make your commute that much easier. So that's something you want to consider if you have to commute to, the southwestern part of the state. Moving east of the river, we have towns like Glastonbury, Hebron, Marlborough, Bolton, Manchester, East Hartford, Vernon, South Windsor. A little bit farther north, we have East Windsor and Enfield, which borders Massachusetts. These are some of the towns that you'll hear about a lot when we talk about what are the towns that are east of the river. It's important to get an orientation of what's west of the river versus east of the river, because depending on your commute, depending on your daily life patterns, that's really going to dictate which towns you want to live in. Let me give you an example. If you were to Google niche.com best places to live in Connecticut right now, chances are you're going to see West Hartford and Glastonbury at the top of that list. And while the list itself might say that those two towns are interchangeable, nothing could be farther from the truth. Specifically, West Hartford. West Hartford is west of the river, which means that if you are working, let's say at Pratt and Whitney in East Hartford, you're going to have to travel over 84 through downtown Hartford every single day during rush hour traffic. And it will take what looks like, maybe a 10-mile commute. It'll take you anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes on a daily basis. Whereas if you lived in Glastonbury, especially close to Route 2, you could be in East Hartford in a matter of minutes. And it's 5, 10, 15 minutes. It's predictable, it's consistent, and it's not really going to vary based on traffic because you don't have to fight through Hartford every single day. Similarly, if you're somebody who lives, like I mentioned earlier, let's say you got a job at Yale and you have to travel down to New Haven every single day. Well, if you live in Glastonbury, even if you live in Glastonbury right along Route 2, you have to go on Route 2. You have to first go north to get on Route 3, cross over the bridge, get on 91 in Wethersfield, and then go all the way down Route 91 until you're finally in New Haven. That commute is going to take you anywhere from 45 to 55 minutes on a daily basis. Whereas if you lived in Wethersfield or Rocky Hill, just across the river, right? It might only be, you might only live 2 or 3 miles difference as the crow flies. That's going to make almost a 25 to 30 minute difference in your commute. If you live in Rocky Hill, just off of 91, you can still get new construction. You still have access to top rated schools in Rocky Hill. You still have neighborhoods and cul-de-sacs and all the things that a lot of buyers in the area desire. But now, instead of having a 45 to 55 minute commute, because you have to first go north to go west to go south, all you have to do is hop on 91 and travel south to New Haven. And now it's only going to take 25 to 30 minutes. So just understanding how the region works, and more specifically how the river divides the region, is going to dictate a lot of your satisfaction and your happiness when you move to the area. I want to talk a little bit about town density and how each of these towns is set up. So obviously Hartford is a major city. So this is, densely populated. You have high rises, apartment buildings, some single family homes in certain pockets, lots of multifamily homes, but it's a very densely populated city, much like other cities. As you start to move out from Hartford into some of these suburbs like West Hartford, Newington, Wethersfield, East Hartford, parts of Bloomfield, in the immediate surrounding suburbs, those are your most densely populated suburbs, with West Hartford being amongst the top of the list. These towns, are set up like grids. Neighborhoods are pretty traditional. A lot of the homes were built between 1900s and 1950s. They're established neighborhoods. You have mature trees, you have sidewalks, you have access to public sewer, public water. They are your quintessential New England neighborhoods and your quintessential New England towns. As you move a little bit farther out from the city, you're going to move into towns like Glastonbury, in Vernon, in South Windsor, the more suburban parts of Bloomfield, Farmington, Avon, Simsbury, in Berlin. As you move into this, outer ring of the suburbs, that's where you're going to start to see more space, more privacy, winding roads. You're going to see bigger lots. You're going to start to get into multi-acre housing lots in towns like West Hartford, Newington, Wethersfield, East Hartford, and Manchester. You're going to have smaller lots, oftentimes half an acre, maybe 3/4 of an acre. But the farther out from the city you get, that's where you're going to start to see 1, 2, 3+ acre lots. That's where you're going to see some privacy, trees between the houses. That's where you're also going to start to see more options for new construction, which makes a lot of sense. There's more space in those towns, so there's more opportunity for builders to come in and start to develop new construction neighborhoods. So, and then when you move even farther outside of Hartford, specifically when you're looking at these towns in the north, right? You're looking at Suffield, Granby, East Windsor, Somers, Enfield, Ellington, and then you're looking down here in Hebron, Marlborough, Andover, Bolton. This is where you're going to really get into the more rural outskirts of Hartford County. This is where, a lot of these towns are agriculturally based. You have a lot of farmland. So if that's more your speed, you're going to want to, start to look in that outermost ring of Hartford County to get, more of what you're looking for. Next, I want to talk a little bit about housing affordability in the Hartford metro area. I did a deep dive on the housing market. I looked at Hartford County in general, and then I looked at the 7 most popular suburbs in Hartford County. But now that we're looking at a map, I want to just go through the most expensive to the less expensive towns in Hartford County when considering the median home price in 2025. So Avon, right over here, just west of Hartford, Avon, right along 44. Last year, the median home price in Avon was over $725,000. That was the most expensive median home price in all of Hartford County. You're going to get more space, bigger lots, bigger homes. And if you're somebody who's looking for homes in the 1 to 2 to 3 million, if not more price range, this is the town that you're going to have the most options. If you're somebody that wants new construction or newer construction, Avon is also going to have those options. They have highly rated schools. They have really highly rated lifestyle. Folks love living in Avon. There's a real pride in living in Avon. And because it's located right on 84, if you're somebody or executive or doctor or somebody who has to work in Hartford, commuting into the city can be rather easy. Next up on the list is Glastonbury. So Glastonbury in 2025 had a median home price north of $650,000. Similar to Avon, Glastonbury has some new construction options. Glastonbury also has a lot of older housing stock. Think 1920s to 1970s. Glastonbury has a nice mix of farmland, but also a really inclusive downtown town center area. Schools are incredibly highly rated in Glastonbury. There's access to both the southeastern part of the state by way of Route 2, but also up through Hartford by Route 2. Folks who find Glastonbury likable are folks that prioritize schools, prioritize variety in housing styles, but they also have the budget to support it. Next up on the list is one of the more popular towns in Hartford County, which is West Hartford, just west of Hartford. West Hartford is the postcard version of New England suburbs. Tree-lined streets, picket fences, sidewalks, people out for jogs on a warm summer evening, folks walking downtown to grab a coffee. There's plenty of shopping, plenty of restaurants, highly rated schools, tons to do both inside of town and just outside of town. The housing tends to be about $550,000 to $600,000 range when looking at the median home price for 2025. There is a much wider variety in houses in West Hartford. You have single family homes, apartments, condos, multifamily homes. Unlike Avon or Glastonbury, there tends to be a lot more housing variety. Homes also move incredibly fast in West Hartford. One of the primary differences between West Hartford and Avon and Glastonbury is the density. West Hartford is a lot more densely populated. Not only are the houses just closer together, but you also have, 2 universities in town. You have 2 major high schools. You have private schools in town. So there just tends to be a lot more people. If you like that kind of energy, if you're coming from a major city like Boston or New York, Chicago, and you're relocating to the area, West Hartford is going to be a nice blend of suburbia, but you're still going to get that energy and the density of what you're used to. So that's definitely something to think about. Next up would be a combination of Farmington and Simsbury, which is just up north here, and then South Windsor. These 3 towns are next up in terms of affordable housing. So the median home price in 2025 for each of these 3 towns was between $450,000 and $525,000. Each have their pros and cons. As you can see, Farmington, if you're somebody that has to commute both west via Route 6 or east via 84, it's really easy to get on the highway and make your way that way. South Windsor, similarly, you have access to lots of different shopping. You have newer construction, highly rated schools. Simsbury tends to be a little bit more quiet. As you can see, it's a little bit farther off the beaten path. You have to go 44 to 202 to get to Simsbury. But again, they have highly rated schools. The housing inventory moves very quickly in each of these towns. But now you can start to see how those price points fit on the map. Next up on the list would be a combination of Newington and Wethersfield. These 2 towns, like I said, sit just south of Hartford, and they both have highly rated schools. They're both a little bit more densely populated. You can just see it from the coloring on the map. They're very similar to West Hartford in that they have grid-like streets. You'll often have houses that share fences, that are right next to each other, that have sidewalks, but the price points are more affordable in both Wethersfield and Newington as compared to West Hartford. The median home price for 2025 in each of these towns was between $350,000 and $400,000. I tend to see a lot of first-time home buyers finding more success in towns like Newington, Wethersfield than West Hartford or Glastonbury. It's not to say first-time home buyers can't buy in Glastonbury or West Hartford, but the price point is very different. You also get houses that are on the smaller side as compared to Glastonbury, West Hartford, Avon, and Simsbury when you look at Newington and Wethersfield. You certainly have bigger houses that are options, but on average, the houses tend to be a bit smaller. And then in terms of even more affordable, towns like East Hartford and Manchester, in Vernon, on the east side of Hartford, these towns tend to be the most affordable of the ones we're talking about today, with a median home price much closer to $300,000. If you're somebody who values convenience and commuting and practicality, these towns are really great. East Hartford is right along 84. Manchester, you have access via 384, 44, and 84. And then Vernon is right along 84. So if you're somebody who wants access, whether it's west, east, north, south, each of these 3 towns are much more affordable ways to get into Hartford County. You have access to these amazing amenities, but also you're protecting your monthly payment. Now that we've talked a little bit about the highways and the specifics of the area and then the specific towns, I want to talk about a little bit about what draws folks to the area. What are some of the things to do? We're going to start in downtown Hartford. 2 of the highest rated and most popular amenities here are Dunkin' Donuts Park, which is right along 84. See if I can find on the map. It's right over here on 84, just off of 84 is Dunkin' Donuts Park. Dunkin' Donuts Park, which is a minor league baseball stadium, built about 10 years ago, and it's really the anchor piece of the revitalization of Northern Hartford. And it's a great place to catch a game with your family. It's highly rated every year by minor league baseball. and it's just a great time. Just south of there is People's Bank Arena, formerly known as the XL Center. This is home to UConn sports like men's and women's basketball, men's and women's hockey. It's also home to the Hartford Wolfpack, an AHL team. We also have traveling acts that come through here every single year. Major comedians like Nate Bargatze, major music performances like Sabrina Carpenter was here a couple years back. Blue Man Group, we have tons of performances, traveling acts that come through every single year. Monster Jam is great for the kids. It's a major arena that attracts major acts. Just went through a multi-million-dollar renovation. So I'm really looking forward to even more acts coming. Also in Hartford, we have Hartford Stage, and the Bushnell is a theater that attracts major acts, major Broadway, off-Broadway shows. I actually had the opportunity to see Hamilton with my daughter this past fall, and it was amazing. And to think that I didn't have to jump in a car and go to Boston, go to New York City to see a world-class performance, and instead, it took me about 20 minutes to jump in my car in Glastonbury, drive up Route 2, park, and get in my seat at the Bushnell. Like I said, it took about 20-25 minutes. It's something that really makes the area special. Now, if you're somebody who prefers, farms, we've got those in spades. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. In towns like Simsbury, Flaming Farm is a huge draw. They have a great petting zoo. I go there every single summer with my kids. There's also a creamery right around the corner. In towns like Canton, in Farmington, there are other farm stands that are readily available that have flowers, pick your own orchards. Down in Glastonbury, we have tons of orchards, whether it's Belltown Hill Orchards, Dondero Orchards, Rose's Berry Farm, tons of opportunity to pick your own fruit, go on a hayride in the fall. If that's more you're seeing, a lot of the towns in this area have those as options, especially when you're walking out into these more rural towns like Andover, Bolton, Hebron, Marlborough. That's where you're going to see opportunity to really interact with nature, whether it's hiking trails, walking trails, or farmland. One thing I forgot to mention is just north of Hartford is actually Xfinity Center. And this is one of the more popular music destinations in the area. If you're from Hartford or even just Connecticut, generally speaking, it's almost a rite of passage for the last 20 to 25 years to go see Dave Matthews Band at the Xfinity Center. The Xfinity Center draws major acts every single summer, from Lainey Wilson to Dave Matthews Band to major country rock, alternative rock concerts every single summer. They sell out. So if you love having access to a world-class music venue in your backyard, the Xfinity Center checks that box for sure. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of attractions, if getting outside, going for a hike, going for a walk, and spending time in nature is more your speed, there are lots of options for that. I want to go over here into Farmington. So in Farmington, we have what's called the Farmington Canal Trail. And the Farmington Canal Trail runs north to south through Farmington all the way down towards New Haven. And this is a paved bike and jogging walking trail. And it's a great way to get outside, spend some time with your family, with your friends, or just by yourself, taking in nature. It's relatively flat, it's relatively easy to maneuver, and there are lots of different parking lots along the way. So if you want to drive to Farmington or farther north or farther south to jump on the trail, it's really easy to do so. Even out farther west, we have the Hublin Tower and Talcott Mountain. So this is a great place to go hiking. It's a great place to get some amazing views of the Farmington River Valley. And it's just a nice way to spend an afternoon with your family or with your friends out in nature. Over along Manchester, we have Case Mountain, which also has really strong hiking. Farther south, which isn't exactly in Hartford County, but it's easily accessible in East Haddam, is Devil's Hop Yard. So Devil's Hop Yard is a park that has dozens of miles of hiking trails, beautiful vistas. You can easily go on a multi-hour hike down there, grab lunch, grab the kids, bring your furry friends. It's a really nice time. So whether or not you're looking to catch a minor league baseball game, a music show, get outside to a farm stand, get outside to go on a hike, just spend time leisurely hanging out with your family, there is a ton to do in a very short distance right here in Hartford County. Let's pause right here for a second, because if this video is helping you figure out just how Hartford looks in your future, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can be the first to get all of the other Hartford County and Central Connecticut content coming your way. I put together videos just like this every single week, and you don't want to miss it, especially if you're thinking about making Hartford County your future home. If you're still watching the video by now, you're still probably pretty early in the process, but you're seriously considering what move to make next. And that's great, I'm glad you're here. This video is meant to give you clarity before any pressure mounts. If you want to go deeper, I've got tons of other videos on this channel doing a deep dive on marketing conditions, pros and cons of towns, other map videos, and everything in between. And I've also put together a free Hartford relocation guide in the links below. I include things like schools, towns, population data, hospitals, key employers, and lots of other relevant information to you and your family if you're thinking about making Hartford home. And if you're planning a move or just thinking about what Hartford could look like in your future, feel free to give me a call, no pressure whatsoever, and we can just have a conversation about your specific situation and how Hartford and the surrounding suburbs fits into that future. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.